fight. You don't have to. Well, that was a small demonstration. Do you think I was that quick on my feet?
Oh no, I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to be that strong.
Actually, I haven't used much strength. You know the difference between Elio's and Carlos Sr. Gracie? Is their philosophies.
I haven't done much studying on them.
So Elio Gracie is, their ideologies are different, but it still consists of what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is. So Elio Gracie was more about self-defense and more technical, using less strength, using less power, and using like burst instead of going all that like a bull. But Carlos, he was like had like some kind of strong ADHD or something like that. He was more consistent. He was more like, I want to do competitions, I want to do sports, I want to stay in the art. Same views, but different ideologies of how they wanted it. And he was very aggressive because Elio had a history of bad health. And so he uses less energy as much as possible. So, like how the history starts out, it talks about it comes after like the Japanese traditions of the samurai, and you know, they were looking for new ways of help for self-defense. So it all originated from Kodokan Judo, and its founder Jigoro Kano, I can't really pronounce this, but he was basically challenged all over the world, and he was challenged by Matamon Tanabe, who had created a classical form of Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And it was technically called Fusenryu, which is F-U-S-E-N-R-Y-U, which is a Japanese form of Jiu-Jitsu. So technically, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu was actually already created, but it was actually perfected by the Brazilians, the Gracie family. The difference between Judo and Fusenryu, I can't really pronounce that right, is that Judo had throws, had people like taking over the shoulder, you know, it was all about stand-up. But Fusenryu, the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, was all about ground fighting. And then one time the instructors, Jigoro Kano and Master Tanabe had formed the curriculum, and they created what is Jiu-Jitsu or / Judo. And one of their particular students was that learned all this stuff was his name was Master Mitsuyo or Misayu, M-I-S-T-S-U-O, Mada, M-A-E-D-A, and he studied both arts. He traveled all around the world. He retired in Brazil, which he met Gustavo Gracie, who ran a business in Brazil, and he taught his son Carlos in the early 1900s. When as Carlos was reading on, learning from Master Mada's teachings that had formed Judo and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, he received his black belt, and he used techniques to perfect what we have now is Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He opened up his first academy in Brazil in 1925, and it expanded across the world. So everything kind of started in Brazil, but the origins come from Japan and judo. As I was going over the ideologies, there's two different ways, but it's all in one under the Gracies, because they were more concentrated on what the art was, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of like morals. Horion Gracie sponsored fights. He challenged every discipline, and he did it without rules, and he wanted to give out a notice, and that was either he wanted to give out the only way they could fight or win Horion's challenges, and he offered money for this. He offered like $1,000. Whoever defeated him can win $1,000. Of course, nobody won $1,000 because nobody could go against a great art. And that, disciplines like Taekwondo, kickboxing, Muay Thai, all the punching and kicking arts that had Bruce Lee famous for, they all lost. And the only way you could lose his matches were if you lost consciousness or by submission or a knockout. And of course, no one won. He also co-founded what we have now, that's international TV, Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC, that everyone watches. Let's say the dirty MMA sport, because they have rules now. Back then, the UFC did not have any rules. The UFC was like, you learn your discipline, go at it, go win, and see who's the strongest fighter. It was opened in 1933. In 1978, Hoist, Healy's other son, represented BJJ, and won many fights in the UFC, and it was essential to art defense. Now, BJJ as a whole, basically, we're going to go over some, like the rule system, the rank system, and the uniform, and some of the basic drills and like benefit stuff that comes along with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So a lot of this is kind of copied from judo, and it comes because of the origin is so knitted close to Jiu-Jitsu. It's kind of like how judo became pamphlet, or let's say the abstract, and then the Gracies came in and made their own stuff. They created a rule system. They created the IBJJF Federation in 1967. But before that, they had, no rules, no submission, well, all submission, knockouts, lose consciousness. It was more just like kind of get dirty and do dirty. It was like basically a street fight whenever, Jiu-Jitsu came in the picture. But the reason why they made it was because they made it for sports, they made it for rules, they made it for competitions, they made it for the rank systems. So there's a big history about the rank system. And before the Federation, they only had 2 belts. They only had a white and a black belt. Now, the trick to this was that the reason why there was only a white and a black belt was because there's a couple of reasons. One, if you had a black belt, it actually meant that you were getting dirt over time and experience, and that's how it came from, was having black belts. But, where the idea of the black belt from judo was actually when swimmers had Olympic Japanese swimmers enter in competitions, they had tied a black tape around their waist to know that they're more experienced than their master at that swimming. That's where judo got the idea. But yeah, over time, there was only white and black, and the only way that you could be a black belt was that if you took an instructor course that Elio had made strict about, was that the only reason you could bump up was if you took the instructor course and you could teach. And that's where they came with the black and the red bar, and the black and the white bar. The black and the white bar is you're just basically a competitor. You help out the classes. And the black and red bar actually signifies that you're a teacher. So the only way that you could teach is if you had a black and red bar. And in 1936, before the Federation was created, there was a judo teacher in Paris. I can't really pronounce the name, and it's Mikonosuke Kawaishi, Mikonosuke, Kawashi, Kawaishi. I can't pronounce any of these Japanese names, they're so complicated. And they had built a younger youth system, and it was added after the Federation in 2005, approved by Elio. But this youth system belt was to build motivation and determination from the youth that wanted to know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo when they had to separate the arts, because they were kind of tired of having a white, yellow, orange, and a green belt. They were all kind of like, when's my turn? When can I step up a little bit? And that's when they became it's actually 10 belts. It's 10 youth belts, which is a long time. It's like sometimes they start with, white, yellow, and it's a combination of colors. It's white, yellow, white, orange, white, green, and then it's like orange, yellow, orange, orange, orange. It's like, it's a long belt system. But there's 10 youth belts, and there's only 5. There's 5 adult belts, and that's white, blue, purple, brown, and black. Now, the only way that you can get the advanced belts, the coral and the red, is if you took really time. So consistently, you start out as a white belt, and then it takes you up to 2 to 3 years to get your blue belt. That's a long time. And then your blue was almost 2 to 4 years, while your blue belt, purple is like 4 to 6, and then your brown is like 6 to 8, and then your black was 10 years or 12. The minimum was 10, and sometimes, there's people who consistently show up to class and you start advancing more. And the coral and the red, it's like, those things are like even hard to touch. Basically, you have to learn like jiu-jitsu within 20, 30 years before you can get your coral. And the coral belt is like black, red, black, and then the red is just straight red belt. The only way that they could advance, originally they had stripes, as what I have right now as a white belt, and they're earned. Sometimes there's academies that take time, and then there's some academies that you have to earn them when you consistently show up, and then if you have moral qualifications for it, and that is like if you are consistent, you're patient, you grow with it, you learn the basics, and you perfect in the art. And that's what it was more about, moral qualifications during this whole belt system. But over time, people started changing in the academies and so forth. Now the uniform, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi, it's with the trousers at the top. It came from judo, but the judo gi was actually lengthier, so people could throw you, and that it's able to hold people longer. The judo gi is much more shorter, much more stiffer, tighter, because it's hard to make grips. It would make it more difficult for people to hang on to, and that's why it's much more shorter. Now, when we're going over basics, first you have to be consistently with the sport. You have to learn time and patience. Memorizing technique is difficult sometimes. Learn to tap. It's like learning from the mistakes in your life, because it's just a learning system that if you get submissions, if you get submitted, well, you'll learn not to do that move again, or you learn to go with the flow, because like no, I shouldn't do that anymore. It takes consistency and retaining, because you have to literally sit there and concentrate and know what you're doing, grow with the art, position over submission. That's something that came from my academy, from in Yodo Gym off of Great Neck at Virginia Beach. But the lessons are passed down from the Gracies, and he's always like position over submission, because you gotta learn where you're at from point A to get to point B, and if you're not even concentrated on point A and you jump to C already, then you're basically going to mess up your BJJ roadmap to being successful. Now we can go over some drills. There's some drills, there's falling, there's base and posture, which is very important. Shrimping, rolling, sprawling, takedown, sweeps, guard breaks and passes. There's side control, knee on belly, bridging, which is very important to when you're escaping, mount attacks and escapes, hip escapes, back, and of course the most famous thing that Ronda Rousey does the most is the armbar. There's falling, of course. When you're getting ready, or you can fall backwards, or if your opponent attacks you from a takedown. There's falling, which it sounds stupid, but if you don't know how to fall, you're gonna get injury. Base and posture, of course. Base is like base. You can look at base and posture as your house. You build the foundation, and then you have your four walls around your house. Now, base is like just being on all fours. Posture is just basically making sure you pull back, but not too far back. When you're kind of like tight, rough, and basically straight. Shrimping, which is very important when you're trying to get out of an escape. And then it's kind of like bench pressing, almost, but you don't have to bench press as much. So you just kind of, or you can, shrimp like, this, I always show off to my friends when I'm sure. So shrimp. But that was more like a hip escape, and then you just kind of go back to your position. Rolling, and then it's not like rolling shouldn't be on your back, and it shouldn't be on your head. Rolling should be always on your shoulder blades. And that includes like stuff in combatives too, or you can just do it while you're standing up. Because I'm going more, instead of going a straight line, which causes more injuries, it's more just to go slanting. So I'll always roll with my shoulder instead of my back and my chest, or to my head, because I don't want to break the neck. Takedowns, there's like, the hip throw. Kind of just, you don't use your back, use your hip, and then you use your ankles. That's a basic takedown. Obviously, you let it on the, it hurts a little bit. There's sweeps. What I did with him is I did like a scissor sweep, and it's just like kind of taking you off your base, because when people are not really consistent with the bases, and they start like falling over or going on the edges, that's your opportunity to sweep. That was a basic. Or there's a hip bump, which is basically when you're like this, and then you have someone in your guard, and they just kind of twist them over. And this stuff doesn't really take much power either. Side control, knee on belly. Basically, you just go on the side, head, arm, make sure you got everything tight. And the knee on belly, because that hurts. When you're like having your knee on someone's belly on the diaphragm, it's kind of hard to be like, ugh. So the diaphragm is actually really important for when you're moving around because it's harder for bridging. It's just like kind of like that's part of the shrimping where it's like you're kind of pushing away, bench pressing, but it's just to have that excessive force to get out whatever situation you're in. If you gotta get out, you gotta get out. Mount attacks and escapes. Basically go into the collar, into the neck, and you want to go deep, and then you swing your hand over sneakily, and yeah, kind of like a bread slicer almost. And it's the most simplest. It's the most simplest move that people do. Now for mount escapes, this is where you get amazing. For mount escapes, and this guy's that big. This guy's big, but I'm small, so I know half of these moves. So this is the typical mount escape. It's called the shark bite, but a lot of people call it different. You just hang on to someone's base, someone's arm, because you got to break one of the walls. You block the foot, and then you get ready to sweep with your hips. Never judge a white belt by its color, because you don't know what it consisted of. I've learned this for 2 years, and I'm always like doubted, like, oh, it's just a white belt, okay. You know how long it took me to earn one stripe? 1 year. It took me one year to earn one stripe, and my master still continues to push me and question me. Like, why don't you show me up? Now there's the back. I think everyone loves the back. As far as the rear naked choke, or some people like doing like weird triangles from the back and stuff like that. And then we have the typical armbar. I think everyone knows the typical armbar from Ronda Rousey's famous fights, because she always finishes them with them. But we'll wrap up a little bit of this demonstration, and basically I want to talk about the benefits. The benefits from learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that you become more flexible. You build up your cardiovascular system, basically because you're constantly on your core all the time. You have to be fast in competitions, but just consistently and fast. It causes blood flow to the body, and then adrenaline too, because you're nervous and you're always thinking on your feet. It helps with exercise in the brain, because you know how you play strategy games on your phone, like Sudoku or stuff like that, and it helps exercise the brain, because you're learning, and it's kind of like a strategy game, and then self-defense, of course, to protect yourself. But other than that, it's become a great art. I'm only a white belt. I'm not a black belt, but I'm always consistently learning, and I'm not here to teach. I'm here to encourage people or not persuade, but encourage people that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of those tough arts, tough, complex, dynamic arts that people misinterpret as something you just ground fight. Now it's a whole circle about defending yourself, and it's one of those arts that defeated many disciplines, so it does have some kind of credibility. Everything derives from judo. Everything is its rank system, it's the uniform. Everything started from judo, and the masters and the teachers and the Gracie family. And if we didn't have all of this, then we wouldn't be able to watch UFC, or we wouldn't be able to defend ourselves. Or as far as then I never introduced my partner. Sergeant Frank Felix, my partner, and also my friend He came out with me today. He's part of the United States Army, and he learned combatives, and he was the one that came out here to come up with me a partner and help me demonstrate this to the class. I'll see you at the next speech. Bye-bye.